In Victorian England, your reputation was everything. Society was a fortress, with walls built of class, wealth, and gender. And for a woman, a good name wasn't just a virtue, it was her key to survival. Within this rigid world, one figure stood in a strange and lonely space. The governess. She was educated, she was refined, she was respectable, but she was painfully isolated. Who was this woman? Typically, she was the daughter of a clergyman, a military officer, or a gentleman who had fallen on hard times. She was raised to be a lady, learning languages, music, drawing, and literature. These skills weren't meant for a career. They were meant to secure a good marriage. But when disaster struck her father's death, a sudden death, a family scandal, those genteel accomplishments became her only lifeline. Teaching was often the only respectable path left open to her, so she would pack her few belongings and enter the grand homes of the wealthy. But she didn't fit in anywhere. She was not a servant, yet she was certainly not treated as a member of the family. Her days began in the quiet chill before the household awoke. She'd be preparing lessons, meticulously correcting copybooks, or practicing the very piano exercises she was hired to teach. Her entire purpose was to educate the children of privilege, shaping the minds of boys who would inherit vast estates and girls who would marry into titles she could never dream of touching. Mealtimes were a stark reminder of her solitude. She might eat alone in the schoolroom or with the children, but she was never invited to dine with the master and mistress of the house. At the same time, she was too high class to join the servants downstairs in their boisterous kitchen. She was a ghost in the architecture of the home. In the evenings, when the family gathered in the drawing room, she was expected to be present, but silent, a piece of living furniture. She had to be socially invisible while remaining morally flawless. And for all this, her pay was pitifully low. It was barely enough to survive on, let alone save for an old age she faced with dread. What about marriage? Her prospects were grim. The very act of earning a wage made her seem less desirable in the eyes of potential suitors from her own class. Yet her poverty made her desperate for the security marriage could offer. She lived in a state of constant anxiety, always fearing dismissal. A single false accusation, a prolonged illness, or even the simple fact that the children were growing up could mean she was cast out with no reference and nowhere to go. The greatest burden of all was the profound loneliness. In letters and diaries from the period, Governesses described the endless, silent evenings. While sounds of laughter and music drifted from the family salon, she would be sitting alone by candlelight, mending her worn-out gloves or losing herself in a novel for a few hours of escape. Forming an emotional attachment to her pupils was a professional hazard. It was discouraged, yet almost inevitable after spending years as their primary companion and mentor. But this bond was destined to be broken the moment her employment ended, a heartbreak she had to endure over and over again. This quiet suffering didn't go unnoticed in literature. Charlotte Brontë herself, a former governess, gave this experience a powerful voice in Jane Eyre. Her novel exposed the deep emotional cost of being simultaneously visible and invisible, of being respected for your morals but stripped of all power. And this wasn't just fiction, it was the lived reality for thousands of women. But it would be a mistake to see these governesses only as victims. They were survivors. They endured. They found ways to adapt and carve out a sense of dignity from a life of constant restriction. Some managed to save enough money to open their own small schools, finally gaining a measure of independence. Others became writers, translators, or used their meager earnings to support younger siblings, ensuring their family didn't fall further into poverty. In a society that gave women so few choices, simply surviving was a courageous act of resistance. The Victorian governess stood on the fragile border between two worlds, belonging to neither, yet essential to both. She was the bridge between the upstairs world of leisure and the downstairs world of labor. She was refined, vulnerable, and incredibly resilient. And for a long time, her story was largely forgotten. She was a silent, essential gear in the great machine of Victorian society, quietly shaping a generation while her own dreams faded. Her story forces us to ask a difficult question. Was the governess more trapped by the rigid structures of society itself, or by the very idea of respectability that she clung to for survival? Was her commitment to being a lady the thing that saved her? or the thing that ultimately imprisoned her? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Was she trapped by society or by respectability? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more hidden histories. See you next time.